With this cloning device, I will make everyone on Earth look as cool as I, the annoying blue guy with big eyebrows. Now everyone in the world will have big eyebrows like me, the annoying blue guy with big eyebrows. Well, unless of course they happen to be in the same room as some orange Tic Tacs and Arizona green tea with ginseng and honey. Well, what are the odds of that? Ögonbryn.
Golly, these sure are tasty orange Tic Tacs with Arizona green tea and with ginseng and honey in the same room.
I agree. I really like this stuff. You said it, Toad.
This sure is a high quality room we rented for our convention.
You're right. It does sound like they are trying to do my Arizona green tea with ginseng and honey. You said it, Toad.
What was that?
I see you have Arizona tea along with the orange Tic Tacs. It doesn't matter, you will pay. Yabba-doo, yabba-doo, yabba-doo day. The only way for you to survive is to collect these objects like crazy shaving cream, nail, page clippers, tweezers. If you fail and miss one thing, death and destruction I will bring. If you are skilled and wise, you may cause my demise. But that won't happen.
Oh, dearie me. I better stop him.
You said it, Toad.
Let's go.
Batman! Your evil twin stepbrother Rentaneyebrow has stolen the money from the bank.
Let's go.
To make matters worse, he stole my shaving cream.
Let's go. Whoa! Yeah! Yeah! Yeah!
Rentaneyebrow must be in this warehouse. Shoot these. Yo. Shoot these.
Oh my goodness.
Rentaneyebrow is on the run! Use these motor scooters to catch him!
Whoa! 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 Hamburger.
Luke! The only way to get into Ganon's castle is to become a fairy!
No problem, I already like men.
No, not that kind of fairy, you idiot! The kind that wears a skirt and flutters around sprinkling glitter everywhere!
No problem, I already like men.
Beanie Babies, bro! It's my computer! It's my computer! It's my computer! Beanie Babies, bro! Excuse me? My computer. It's my computer.
The only way we can get to Dr. Eyebrownneck's place of hiding is with the toast burger.
Did you say hamburger?
Hamburger. Hamburger. Hamburger.
It's me, Mario. Mamma mia!
Take it!
Una tuta solo. Una tuta solo. Una tuta solo.
Use the mouse! Think! Help you, my bro. Bro.
I'm surprised you made it this far, Hercules, but now you will die! Bro! How can this be possible?
You may have defeated my clone, but you will never survive the power of the eyebrow. Enough of this. Have at you. Cough, cough. While you may have killed me, my ship is set for self-destruct. But now, you will die, Hercules! That won't happen.
Golly, I sure am gladish that we all made it back safely. Where is Bagu?
You should have said
What? Goat?
You said it, Toad.
Roar!
Use the mouse! Link!
Whoa!
Shoot these!
Oh, dearie me.
B.
Luke, the only way to get...
Excuse me? Beanie Babies, bro!
Uchi! I kiss boys! Seriously! You just don't understand!